So, Google just dropped its most powerful AI to date. It's called Gemini 2.5 Deepthink, and it's built to do one thing: solve problems so tough they make other AIs just give up. But here's the kicker, and it is a big one. Getting access to this kind of power is going to cost you a lot.
Just how much are we talking about? Well, to use DeepThink, you need to be on Google's highest tier plan, AI Ultra, and that plan costs a whopping $250. Yeah, you heard that right. Per month.
Which, of course, leads to the big question, right? What on earth could an AI possibly do that makes it worth that kind of money? And the answer isn't that it's just faster. No, it's that it thinks in a fundamentally different way. The secret behind DeepThink's power, and, its price tag, it's not about raw speed. It's all about a completely different approach to problem solving. Okay, so here's the really interesting part. DeepThink is actually built on the exact same architecture as the regular Gemini 2.5 Pro. The key difference is that Google has basically given it permission to take its time, to increase what it calls its thinking time. So instead of just spitting out the first good answer it finds, it does this thing called greater parallel analysis, which is a fancy way of saying it lets the problem just kind of simmer. And this really gets to the heart of the trade-off here. See, most AI models today are built like sprinters. They're optimized for speed, for efficiency, they find one plausible path to an answer, and they just go. DeepThink, though, is a marathon runner. It throws the whole need for speed out the window and instead focuses completely on quality and depth by exploring a whole bunch of different solutions all at once. So you shouldn't think of it like a simple calculation. It's much more like a creative brainstorm. The model doesn't just follow one single track. It starts by exploring a ton of different angles. It generates a bunch of different hypotheses. And then, and this is the really cool part, it actually goes back and revisits and remixes all those initial ideas, blending the best parts together to cook up a final answer that's way more robust and way higher quality. So that's the theory, right? It all sounds great on paper. But does all of that extra thinking time actually translate into smarter answers? Well, when you look at the performance data, the story becomes pretty darn clear. The short answer? Yes. A big yes. On a bunch of the standard tests, DeepThink is already outperforming Gemini 2.5 Pro and its biggest competitors, like the latest models from OpenAI and Grok. But where it really shines, where it truly pulls away from the pack, is when the problems get ridiculously difficult. Take this one benchmark. It has the super intimidating name Humanity's Last Exam. It is a brutal test. Thousands of questions, 100 different subjects. And most of the top AIs, they just hit a wall, scoring around 25%. DeepThink, on the other hand, makes a significant jump, all the way up to almost 35%. Now, that's not just a little bump. In the world of AI, that is a massive leap in its ability to reason across complex topics. And it turns out, Google has funneled a huge amount of this new reasoning power into one very specific area: mathematics. And we are not talking about your high school algebra here. We're talking about really advanced, proof-based math, the kind of stuff that gives even the smartest humans a serious headache. And the results are pretty incredible. The version of DeepThink that you can actually get your hands on, it already performs at a bronze medal level on problems from the International Mathematical Olympiad. But here's where it gets really wild. Google has an even more powerful version, one that's specially trained just for this, that isn't public yet. That model, it scored a gold medal on the same problems. That's a historic first for any AI system ever. A gold medal winning AI math whiz for $250 a month? It sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? And well, of course there's a catch. This kind of power comes with some very real, very practical limitations. So let's go through the fine print. First off, all that deep thinking takes time. You're not getting instant answers here. A single response can take several minutes to come back. Second, it's super resource intensive to run, so Google has to put a cap on how many times you can even use it each day. It's also not its own separate thing. It's a special tool that you have to call up from inside the regular Gemini 2.5 Pro. And of course, all of this is locked behind that very pricey AI Ultra subscription. So let's pull back for a second. what does all of this really mean for the future of AI? The launch of DeepThink feels like it's more than just another product. It feels like a genuine shift in the road ahead.
The best way to look at DeepThink is as a milestone, not the final destination. It represents this really important pivot for the whole field, a move away from just chasing fast answers and toward the pursuit of something that looks a lot more like genuine reasoning. It's a proof of concept for what's possible, but the journey is still far from over.
And that's exactly why that experimental, gold medal-winning model is so important. It shows us that the DeepThink we see today is just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. It's a giant flashing arrow pointing to a future where the ceiling for AI reasoning is far higher than anyone has managed to reach so far. It's paving the way for systems that could be just unbelievably more capable than what we have now. And this brings us to one final and pretty critical question. DeepThink's high price and its limited access really forces us to look into the future. As these systems get more and more powerful, evolving from just answering our questions to maybe generating truly groundbreaking ideas, who gets to use them? It brings up this possibility of a future where the best thinking and maybe even the best ideas are reserved only for those who can afford the price of admission.